Well, hello folks, and welcome to this standalone video which is on the subject of custom validation callbacks. If you have a look at the documentation, you'll see that we've got a form validation helper, and it has a whole bunch of built-in helpers here to check things like if something has a minimum length or if it matches. There's a whole bunch of them. They're all in the docs, right? However, what happens if there's some unique rule that you would like to create? And what if you would like to have your own validation error message for when things don't go right? Well, that's what we're talking about here. And that, by the way, is a custom validation callback. Sounds kind of fancy, but don't worry, it's really, really easy. I'm so happy with how easy this is. So let's create a module. Let's do it together. Going to create new module, new Trongate module. I'm going to call it member, and we can have manage members. I'm not going to have an icon, and we're going to have just two properties. Okay, so we'll say first name, and we will also say last name. That's all we need for this one. And just get through the rest of it as quickly as you can. So I'm not going to bother with URL columns or anything. Order by ID, doesn't matter. And away we go. So you should now have a module. Now your page may look slightly different from this one, but don't worry about it. The general principles will not change. We're going to click on create new member record. And just because we can, let's add in a record just to prove that this thing works. So I'll go with Frank Colombo. I'll say submit, and there you go. Now, let's take a look at the PHP code and see what's happening. Alright, so here's the app that was just created. I'm going to go into modules, members, and we'll go inside here. Now, again, the code has probably changed. Don't worry about it, that's normal. It does not mean that the thing has broken or anything. Little tweaks happen all the time, it's no big deal. So don't worry if your code is different from this. But what I want you to do is look for a method called submit, and there it is right there. Do you see it? Now, again, maybe your syntax is slightly different, I have no idea. But can you see how we have some validation rules here? For example, required, minimum length of 2, and so on, right? So what we're going to do is create our own validation rule here. And let's make up something that's just not in the documentation. So it's nothing here, right? And we'll make a rule that says that John Rambo is not allowed to join or something like that, right? It's not a great example, but it's all I can think of. So I'm going to take this out just so that I've got a little bit of room, okay? But we are still required, and of course you can keep on joining on those other rules if you want, right? But in any event, we're going to add in a little rule of our own. And the way that we do this is we say callback underscore, and then the name of a method. You can call it anything you want, and I'm going to call this one name check, or anything you want actually, but that's just the first thing that I thought of. Now, let's go downstairs. I have a little convention that I like to add these at the bottom of the file. I don't know why, it's just a habit. But I'm going to make a method here, and it's going to be called name check, and it takes in, actually, not just any old string, it takes in the last name. Okay, so again, just to show you what's happening, we're saying callback name check. So we want to make a method that's called name check, and that method is going to receive a last name. So here's how it goes. We're going to say first name is, and I'll just say post first name. Chuck in a little true if it makes you feel good. And then we already have our last name. So I'm going to say if first name is equivalent to John and last name is equivalent to Rambo, then, well, we're going to have an error. So the idea, and I'm so happy with this, because whenever you do one of these callbacks, you make a method that is going to either return true or an error message. That's it. That's the beginning, middle and end of what this has to do. It's really, really simple. So let's just assume that if it's John Rambo, we're going to have a custom error message. That guy is not allowed after what happened last time. This is a really stupid example, but you can see that we have an error message and I'm going to return the error message. There you go. Now, if the error message doesn't happen, we'll look at the top. We either return an error message or true. So if everything is okay, we're going to return true. That's the Boolean true. My friends, that is it. So let's save it. We're going to go back to the form here and we'll just make sure that it still works. So I'll create a new member record, chuck a name in, anything you want. There we go. And now I'm going to try and add in John Rambo. And by the way, you agree, I hope, that this is a completely custom error message and a completely custom set of rules here. So when we do John Rambo and we hit submit, it says that guy is not allowed after what happened last time. And that is how we do custom validation callbacks.